Today's perspective is hinged around the old saying, waste not, want not. Last year, a group of like-minded creatives launched a sustainable food magazine called the Preserve Journal, which they say is filled with curiosity and love. The first issue tells us how to love weeds and bees and forage during winter. The magazine's founder, Michelle Skelsgaard Sørensen, joins us now from Denmark. Michelle, thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. There are lots of journals and cookbooks around nowadays which help us to make the planet greener and make us perhaps be better people. But what makes your magazine different? What's the philosophy?
Well, thank you so much for having us. It's a big honor to be here today. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of inspiring things going on these days, and there are a lot of inspiring people showing and sharing their knowledge with the world. But I think where we try to set ourselves apart is to share and to collect a lot of different aspects and topics and voices, just to show the magnitude of the work that is actually being done out in the world. So it all basically started by our own research and passion, just showing us that there were so many people in the whole world doing amazing work on food and sustainability, and just coming from various fields and backgrounds. And we felt that there was channels supporting these different aspects, but there was nothing really bringing them all together. And so we thought it would be really beautiful and powerful to just bring them together and just to show again this magnitude of engagement from the world, and to hopefully inspire people to find their path and to take part in the way that makes sense to them.
And you've been keen to call this magazine a seasonal magazine. The 4 seasons of the year are a key part of your philosophy. What exactly do you mean by that? What do you want readers to take away?
Well, I think it all started when like I had a really nice talk with my grandmother, and I realized that there were generations not long ago where we lived with the seasons. So we lived with the land, and we had an understanding of what seasonal meant, and we had an understanding of our regions and what produced when and how, and just to how to use that and how to use the beauty of the land that we were living with. And I think that within being a publication, so I mean, we're not, we're written in a paper publication. So what we want to do is to, in the best way, show the seasons and how they evolve, and how we can use the different seasons to get closer and to get more intimate with our land and its produce, and how to just take more part and become more aware of the seasons around us.
Now, a lot of the magazine is to do with the food supply chain and what you see as being wrong with it. What is wrong with it, and how can we fix it?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think what we see today is that today's food culture and today's food system are just dominated by industrialized, homogenized, and capitalist structures. So it has been turned into a machine that has no regard for land, for nature, for humans, and for animals within this system. And we think that this is a huge problem, that the people and the human have gotten lost in this system. So we obviously don't have a solution to the big problem, but what we really believe in and what we also promote with the magazine is that everyday activism is a huge thing. And that by fermenting and having your own sourdough and foraging and living with the season, you're actually offering concrete resistance to these structures that we see dominating today's food system, because you're actually showing up by doing these small acts of everyday activism. You're showing up and you're actively taking part and engaging in a different kind of food system, which is much more humane and which has respect for the environment and the humans that are involved with it.
Now, Michelle, I'm not sure whether you're aware, but last Wednesday here in France, there was a national anti-food waste day. 2 supermarket chains now face lawsuits for not respecting a law from 2016 which bans the throwing away of foods. In your view, should supermarkets be doing more, and should governments around the world be holding more of these kind of national anti-waste days?
Definitely. I think a huge part of this movement of food and sustainability is information, and to share the information with people. And I think government should be doing much more. I think it should be a part of public schooling to learn about seasons and to learn about produce and to learn about how to cook with zero waste and how to live much more in a resilient structure, also with today's climate change that we're all facing. I think that it is I think that governments and states should have take much more responsibility in sharing this knowledge with people who are actually curious, because also what we're seeing today is people do want to take part. It can just seem very overwhelming how to take part. And so I think if there was much more inspirational information being shared, people would engage much more, and they want to engage much more. So that's great. It's really nice to hear that France is doing this, because I think supermarkets have a big part in this, definitely.
Just on that point, many of our viewers will be either having breakfast or having dinner wherever they are in the world at the current time. What can they be doing right now today, the small steps that could eventually make a big difference?
Yeah, well, I mean, visit our website, I think, and look at the magazine, because we definitely, what we try to do is to share all these different stories of the people doing this amazing and inspiring work. And let's say in the magazine we maybe share 15 different stories from people doing very, very different work, and we hope that people reading the magazine maybe find one story that really resonates with them, and then hopefully encourage them and inspire them to take part in the way that makes sense to them. But I would say a very good advice that I was given, which has made a lot of sense to me, is to be critical and to ask questions, because I think that's the best place to start with yourself. What am I eating? Where did it come from? And how was it produced? And was it produced with respect for the environment, its humans, and its animals? And I think if you start asking these questions, then you also, I mean, it's a rabbit hole, and everything will then suddenly get more and more complicated. But at some point it makes sense to you, and you start eating and consuming out of respect, and it also just feels great.
Now, Michelle, just one final question. For those who've already enjoyed issue 1 of the Preserve Journal, what can we expect from future issues?
Yes, thank you for asking. We actually just printed issue 2, and we're announcing at the end of this week. So there's a brand new magazine coming out. We're also launching a blog next month, because we were just seeing that people are really, really curious, which is a very positive thing for us to see. People would like to know more, and they're looking for more content. And also we want to create this accessible platform for everyone. Yeah, so there's issue 1, of course, there's issue 2 coming out, and then there's a blog coming with much more inspiring content in November.
Okay, I'm hopefully going to pronounce this properly for a second time. Michelle Skelsgaard Sørensen from the Preserve Journal in Copenhagen. Thank you so much for being with us here on France 24.